Okay, I just want to read a little bit of a Fasching paper. I mostly agree with Fasching. He's exploring the idea that consciousness is presence. He's influenced by and interpreting the Advaita tradition. So he says, so it is doubtless correct that the givenness of an object is not just a featureless, empty presence that cannot be further analyzed. I certainly can attend to the perspectival givenness of an object, and this is something different from attending to the object's objective properties. There are manifold modes of givenness, and each object givenness is in itself richly structured, and accordingly complex phenomenological analyses are possible. For instance, we can, to take a Husserlian example, analyze how the perspectival givenness of a perceptual object involves, as the givenness of a givenness transcendent object, the co-givenness, a presentation of sensuously non-given perspectives. How these co-givennesses are rooted in earlier givennesses of the same object or of objects of the same kind. So I just want to slow down there a little bit. This is kind of how time, this is like the Husserlian Heideggerian notion of time. So when I see an object, I have a strong sense. For one thing, I'm not like in this instantaneous punctiform moment. So the classic example, you're walking around the table, you could say that there's a kind of continuum of aspects that shade into one another, and you expect further aspects to manifest. So you have a kind of retention and protension, a kind of memory or reverb, to be metaphorical, and this kind of anticipation of more aspects that are connected in predictable, familiar ways to the aspects given so far. So this interesting word, givennesses, that's like an aspect, the way that the table shows itself in a moment. But there really is no punctiform, infinitesimal now in phenomenology. Like if you do phenomenology yourself, try to find this punctiform now, I don't think you will find it. You might say that the now is rubbery and stretched. And this is why James would speak of a personal continuum. William James made a big deal of this immediate sense of continuity that we have. And of course, in physics, we model time with the real number continuum. And if you've looked into philosophy of mathematics, the continuum has given philosophers headaches. So, Chaitin's book, Metamath, he talks about, so the non-computable real numbers are necessary to complete the continuum. But the non-computable real numbers can't even be finitely named. If they could be finitely named, they would be computable. So in some sense, these non-computable numbers are the most unreal real numbers, and yet they take up all of the space. The set of computable numbers as a countable set has a measure of 0. So this is one of the weird things about math. And you had like Brouwer, he tried to fill or complete the continuum with choice sequences because he did not accept the classical approach. So this continuity of experience, this constant continuity of the world's presentation to the subject is a pretty deep and thorny issue. Okay, so we thereby analyze how, by virtue of which kind of interplay of appearances, the givenness of a particular kind of object comes about. Yet all of this plays in the medium of presence as such. Such an analysis explains how consciousness can be the consciousness of this or that kind of object, but not how it can be consciousness of the object. Consciousness as such is simply presupposed. Consciousness is the taking place of presence, in which all this object appearing with all its manifold modes and structures takes place, yet in itself it has no modes or structures and nothing to analyze. It is utter simplicity. So this makes me feel like I'm on the same page with Fasching, even if there's like a few points that I would love to have a conversation and work out. So this footnote up here, he says, it is in this sense, I would suggest, that the Advaitic thesis is to be interpreted that the mental acts that bring objects to manifestation have only a borrowed light, i.e., that ultimately it is not they that reveal the objects, the revealing factor rather being consciousness. So I feel like I know what he's trying to say. Do we really want to call consciousness a factor, a revealing factor? I want to say that consciousness is the revealing. And this is how I like to read Heidegger. I can't find too many people that agree with me, at least in such a strong sense as I am suggesting. So he mentions down here, yet all of this plays in the medium of presence as such. Is presence a medium? Now he may be using this word just to try to be understood. I want to say that presence is indeed utter simplicity. Presence is not a medium. What is revealed is precisely all of this structure. So presence, why this word? Why presence instead of being? So I would say that consciousness is being, is presence. So he mentions perspectival givenness of a perceptual object. So the reason we would want to use presence for being, I think, is because of this perspectival givenness. Why are people tempted to say that consciousness is inside? It's the most intimate thing in a certain sense. We project consciousness on others. It's not like we can find it in their brain. We might use facts about their brain, scans about their brain, to justify our projection of this consciousness. We can't see the world through their eyes. We can't sort of check in a direct way if this or that entity is conscious. I mean, I don't know of a way. But I do believe that other humans, for instance, are conscious, my cat, maybe even spiders, and so on. So he says consciousness is the taking place of presence. I would just say consciousness is this presence. Now, the taking place, I think he's trying to say that this presence is situated. So to me, the word consciousness, if it's not reified, it's already very close to presence, because you're talking about a situated revelation of the world. And all of these Husserlian phenomenological analyses, that would be like an investigation of what is present. But it's because all of this structure is present that we can do that. And the presence of this structure, I want to suggest, is a radically simple interpretation of the concept of consciousness.